Hello everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Psychology of Competitive Gaming. Today I want to talk to you about improving skills. And what this has to do with growth mindset, we'll explain this in this video. And we're going to focus on something called neuroplasticity. But before I explain what that is, I have a question for you. And the question is, do you think you can get better at anything you want? And there's no right or wrong answer. Just think for yourself. What do you think you can get better at anything that you want? Because I think that you can, if you work for it and go for it, put time and effort in it. And of course, it is easier said than done. But I want to talk to you about how to actually do this and how this works in the brain. Because the brain is something kind of mysterious, and there's still a lot of debate about how you learn. But there's something really interesting that is well known in the psychology world. And I want to talk to you about that. Because that's neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity means the adaptation of the brain, or like the changing of the brains. Because in your brain, there are millions or even billions of brain cells. And every time you do something, there goes a little bit of electricity from one brain cell to the other. So if you walk, there goes a little bit of electricity from one spot to the other. And each time the brain does that, it creates a pathway. And then if you do it again, the electricity goes over the same path. And it gets a little bit wider. And if you do that often and often, the pathway gets more wide and wider until it's really big and you can just run through it and you know how to do it. Because your brain adapts to what you often do. And your brain makes pathways to learn. And this may seem a little bit fake, so I have a picture of this. So imagine you're gaming and you always played with the keyboard and mouse. Then it would mean that because you do that often, there's a strong pathway between one brain cell and the other where you play the keyboard and mouse. So there goes a little bit of electricity from one spot to the other. And this is a fixed pathway. So each time you do it, the electricity goes from the same spot to the next. And then on the other hand, if you don't play the controller that often, like you don't play Rocket League or other games where you need a controller, and that's a weak pathway. So the pathway is a lot smaller and it's weaker. So when you do play with the controller, it feels kind of weird or you're not really used to it. Or with the keyboard and mouse, you're really familiar with it and you just know where everything is, you can type blind and you just feel comfortable. And that's what neuroplasticity is. It's the changing of those pathways. Because you can imagine that if you turn it around, where you start playing the controller a lot more than the keyboard and mouse, then the pathway for the controller gets a lot bigger and bigger and bigger until you're more comfortable with that. And you can actually notice this. Because you can almost feel the pathways in your brain. And it's really weird. And you can actually try this at home. So I encourage you to try this whenever you can. Because I want to show you that you also have pathways that are strong and pathways that are weak. And you can do this by crossing your arms like this. Just do it whatever. It feels easy, it feels comfortable, and it feels normal. But now, instead of doing it the normal way, put your other hand above. So instead of this, you do it the other way around. How does that feel? It's kind of awkward probably. It feels weird, you really have to think about how you do it. And it doesn't really feel nice. And once you figure out how to do this, try it again. So put your arms wide, stretch it, and do it again. And again. And again. And if you do this 10, 20, 100 times, you will notice that it gets easier every time. And at some point, it doesn't even feel weird anymore, or not uncomfortable anymore. And that means that the new way of crossing your arms, the pathway gets thicker and gets bigger, and it gets easier for your brain to do so. And you can kind of see this like you're in the jungle. So imagine you're in the jungle and you have to go home. But to do that, you have to cross the jungle. But there are trees, there are bushes, there's grass, and like you can't just walk through it. So you move things out of the way, you cut things off, and after a long time, you can finally get home. But the next day, you're at the same spot again. You have to get home again. You can still see a little bit of a pathway in the jungle where you were yesterday. But you still have to move some things around. And it gets a little bit easier, but it still takes a long time. But if you do this for a year, every day, then all of a sudden you'll see that the pathway is free. You can just run through it, you can get a car through it. And that means it's so easy to get home. And that's the same with this, with the brain. Because if you do something often, it gets better and it gets easier. Because what happened now is that the strong pathway for your normal way of doing your, for the crossing of arms is really strong, and the other way around is really weak. So it doesn't feel nice to do it with a weak pathway, but it does feel nice with a strong pathway. So if you do this a lot, the weak pathway will get stronger, and you'll get better at it, and it will feel better. And I actually have a really good example with this, because when I play Rocket League, I play it with the controller. And I used to have held it with one finger and with my thumbs. But I wanted to try something new, because I noticed that I couldn't accelerate with this button and air roll with the other one. And for those who don't know Rocket League, it's just a mechanical thing where you need to press a button to move better. But I couldn't accelerate and do that at the same time, because I needed two buttons for it. So I tried something new, something I was not comfortable with. That was use two fingers. So I used my middle finger too. So now I could accelerate and move. And this took me weeks to feel comfortable with. And I remember my teammate at the time, he was like, don't do this, because you'll play really bad, you'll fail and will lose. And true, because I did lose a lot. I played worse and I couldn't get it right. But after a few weeks, it clicked. And I didn't even have to think about like changing it anymore. Because during the practice, I noticed that I was using one finger, and then I had to think, shit, no, I need to use two fingers. And so I did. And it was very uncomfortable, and I failed a lot, and I lost a lot, and I ranked down plenty. But I made it work after a few weeks. And this helped me unlock a lot of opportunities to get better. Because now I could do a lot more. I could air roll faster, I could jump faster, I could get to the ball faster. Like I got a lot better because of it. But I had to fail and learn it. And that took time. So the strong pathway in my brain for one finger, while I had a weak pathway for two fingers. But because I only tried to use two fingers from then on, now it feels really weird to only use one finger instead of two. So now my strong pathway in my brain is for two fingers and the weak pathway is for one finger. So that took time and a lot of failure, and that's okay. Because if you have a growth mindset and you think, okay, this can help me to improve on the long term, then it's worth to fail. And it's worth to try it, and maybe even disappoint your teammates. I mean, it happens. but it's a good thing. So now it's your turn. And it doesn't matter with what. Maybe you want to go for the ceiling shots with Rocket League, or get the headshots with CSGO or Valorant, or you want to try the new ability or a new combo with League of Legends, or even if you want to play guitar or study math. You have to keep practicing and try new things. Do the things that make you uncomfortable, because those are the things that will help you improve the most. So keep going for the difficult shots or difficult tactics or whatever it is that you need to do to improve. And don't give up, give it time. It does cost time to create those pathways, but your brain adapts to what you often do. So stay determined and practice and be patient. Put your growth mindset on and trust that neuroplasticity does its work. Because if you don't believe you can improve, so if you have a fixed mindset, then you're not gonna put in the time and go for the weird things and fail that you need to do to let neuroplasticity do does the work. Thank you for watching. I hope this was clear for you, and I hope you enjoyed watching this. And if you did, please like it or leave a comment or ask any question you want. I'm more than happy to help you out with whatever I can. And then I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.